Very good morning to respected Headmaster Sir, Himanshu Sir, Supervisor Jacob Sir, and the Rep. Gr10 Arun Sir, as well as all the teachers and the students present here. I, Open Hegde, welcome you on to the Health and Mind Club's webinar on coping with the exam stress. As part of the Health and Mind Club, we focus on developing both the physical as well as the mental aspects of the students in our school, right? So, and as exam stress is really natural during the exam season, and on top of that, we've got the pandemic. So, once again, we, the students of the Health and Mind Club, of DPS Sharjah, will take you through this webinar and get rid of that exam stress. Now, without further ado, I think I'm talking about let's begin. So, first up, it's something that I believe we all are really good or really horrible at, and that is time management, right? So, time management is something that I don't know if it's just natural with humans. It's either you're good at it or you're bad at it. There's nobody who's right in the middle of that spectrum. So no matter how dedicated you are to get a good percentage on your boards, you're likely to struggle from procrastination, right? And I'm guessing as we all have switched to this e-learning platform, I don't think the situation has really improved that much, you know. So when it comes to putting off our work, let's say it's a constant struggle, right? As I believe Stephen Pressfield writes in The War of Art, I quote and unquote, procrastination is the most common manifestation of resistance because it's the most easiest to rationalize. Now, I think I said a mouthful, and let me just break that down, right? So, we never tell ourselves that I'm not going to study. Instead, we say I'm going to start tomorrow. So, think what you go through when you say that I'm going to start tomorrow. You promise yourself that and do this particular thing tomorrow. And all of a sudden, on the pressure, on the stress, on the anxiety is alleviated, and we feel almost productive in an odd way, even though we're not doing anything. So I was doing an English assignment the other day, and I needed like the actual definition of tomorrow, and I hit it on Google, and I was greeted with something that said a day after the present day. I was really happy with that, and then I found this, which actually formulated the word tomorrow in a better way. So tomorrow, which is predominantly used as a noun, is a mistaken noun where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, as well as achievement is stored. I think it explains it itself. So next up, we can go over to something that causes a lot of problems in our studies, and that's not the PlayStation, but procrastination, right? So we continue to push our work off, even though we're not, yeah, even though we know about the consequences. So we convince ourselves through excuses like tomorrow I'm going to have more energy, tomorrow I will feel much more inspired. But the problem is that the tomorrow never comes, right? Uh, because tomorrow we don't feel that inspired. We don't have the energy that we were talking about the previous day. So I believe Pearson gave this equation in a book, and it says motivation is equal to the expectancy into value by impensiveness into DNA. Again, that is a mouthful, and I wouldn't break it down. So over here, we've got all the terms in the equation, and let me just break it down step by step. So he says in the formula, motivation is the willingness to do work, which is the opposite of a procrastination, right? So breaking down the equation further, we've got expectancy, and it refers to how much you expect to succeed in doing your task and thereby getting your reward. So the more you expect being successful, the less likely you're going to procrastinate, right? And value, it refers to how much you enjoy doing the task and how much you're going to enjoy the reward. So the more value you derive from a task or the reward, the more likely you're going to get straight to work. Next up is impulsiveness. It refers to your tendency to get distracted. Basically, in the simplest of terms, impulsiveness is how much you're going to be nerd into using Instagram or YouTube during your study session. Last but not the least, we have DNA, which refers to the time lapse until receiving the anticipated reward. So I think by now we all know what this equation meant, and the longer the DNA is, the more likely you're going to procrastinate, right? As you figure it's something that you can just take care of later. Ideally, looking back at the equation, what we need to do is maximize expectancy and value, as they are directly proportional to motivation, which would lead us to going against procrastination, and reduce impulsiveness and delay, as they are inversely proportional. Come on, this is basic maths, and I hope you guys have understood this. So now, let's go with some actionable steps that we can use to implement into our daily lives to overcome procrastination. First up, breaking down the steps. Okay, this is quite vague, I must say, the phrase itself, breaking down the steps, but let me break it down further. With any task you need to do, whether it be studying for an exam, probably doing an assignment, probably doing a project, whatever you're doing, it applies to all tasks that happen throughout our lifetime. In fact, it's most suggested to break things down, right? So doing so will increase our expectancy, going back to the equation, and because what happens is we humans find smaller tasks much more easier to accomplish than larger ones. So next up, the second tip is keep the task duration small. What this means is it might contradict with the first thing if you didn't understand properly. So basically, let's say we broke a huge task into a small task. And now let's say we set probably a couple of hours, maybe 2 hours to do that one particular task. What's going to happen is it's going to increase your it's not going to allow you to focus, and that's why we use the pomodoro technique. This really cute tomato symbolizes that. So the hardest part in getting work done is just starting, and again, this is the technique that I use. It was one of my favorite techniques to study as well. So in short, what you do is you break down your tasks into 25-minute blocks or 25-minute pomodoros. So in each block, you focus on one particular concept or topic. And each 25-minute block is going to be separated by a 5-minute break. So let's take a quick example. And in fact, this is what I used to do. So before I started implementing the Pomodoro technique, I would tell myself, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to study this particular chapter. It might take 5 hours. I'm not going to move around, probably take a break in between, and that should be it. And I'll be done with this particular chapter, right? Pretty common. But what happens is I would get distracted like that. Probably 10 minutes, and I'm already to start checking my phone, going out of my room, talking to other people, calling my friends or something, and that was really quite normal. So, however, once I switched over, I told myself, okay, I have to finish the chapter, but right now I have to just do this particular concept, because now I broke down the task into smaller concepts, and now since I'm using the Pomodoro technique, I have to just study it for 25 minutes, and then I get a 5 minutes break. So it becomes much less daunting, because each Pomodoro makes us symbolize it as a different task, even though they're just adding up in real time and helping you further. Last but not the least, we have this. This is a nice little quadrant that is over here, and it goes by the name Eisenhower. And it is made by the former US President Eisenhower. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. And it kind of speaks for itself, right? Because on the top you've got urgent and not urgent, and on the left you have not important as well as important. So basically what you do is any task that is urgent and is important, you put it in the top left corner. However, if any task is not urgent and it is important, you put it on the top right corner. And the same goes on. If it's urgent but not important, you put it on the bottom left corner, as well as if it's not urgent and it's not important, you put it in the top right corner. So giving you examples of what you could do is, for the not urgent, not important, you could put something like checking your phone on YouTube or going through Instagram or something. And for something that's not urgent and important, you could put for something like your homework, because it is not urgent but it's super important. And on the leftmost is urgent and important, where you would put something like your exams. And on the bottom left, where you got the urgent and the not important, You could put something that is super urgent for you, maybe filling a particular form, but it's not exactly that important. And with this, I hope you guys understood how to manage your time. Now I'm going to be passing it over the virtual dice, I suppose, over to Emin, who's going to talk more about physical as well as mental well-being.
So, welcome, guys. In this segment, we're going to be discussing about physical and mental well being. My name is Emin. So, before we get into how we can try and maintain this aspect of physical and mental well being during your exams or during your preparation period of exams, let's talk about why we should try and do it. It's because mostly during these times, you will try to completely immerse yourself in studies. Like, you'll be cut off from everything else, you won't be paying attention to things happening around you. So what that does is it makes you feel heavy headed, and you won't, sometimes it gets to a point where you succumb to that pressure, and you start feeling hostile, like there's so much work to be done, you don't feel like going out and doing anything. So in order for making that aspect active, we must try and maintain a balance, just like, yes, just like our man Thanos has said, everything should be perfectly balanced. So we're not talking about the balance of the population over here, we're talking about balancing between your studies and your extra activities. And extra activities mean anything that calms you down or just chills you down for some time. Because I know we won't be asking you to split your time equally between studies and extra activities, because that's a bit too much to ask, and your during your preparation time you won't be willing to do it. So what would be advisable is give at least a fraction of your time for self-care, and give some importance to yourself as well. Just look after yourself, make sure that your mind is at the right place, because if not, then like your mental and physical health is like that base in a domino tower. If that base isn't strong, then everything else you have built up just topples down. So that's what you should try and do, maintain a proper balance. Otherwise what happens is you end up like this guy. Look at him, he's trying to study, and he's got a lot of books, he's made up notes and everything, but once he's trying to clock in very long hours of study without any breaks or anything, his mind wanders away. Look at all the places it goes. He's just it becomes counterproductive, because you're trying to spend a lot of time studying, but what happens is your mind wanders away, and all the time you spent reaches no outcome. So what would be advisable is give at least a fraction of your time for self-care. And if you do that, if you find that common ground, that balance between your extra activities and your studies, what happens is you end up like this guy. Look at him, he's just happy, he's not got a care in the world, he's just chill. So this is what's going to happen if you do manage to find that common ground. And in order to find that common ground, what we're going to look at is structure and organization. Yes, so take a look at this table, for example. You've got your study tool, your notes are on one side, you've got your analytic records, there's snacks, everything's there. So it's just a well organized outlook. Like you look like you want to do those the work. But otherwise, when you feel like there's a lot of just stacked up there, you've got so much work to do, your mental state won't be right. Like you won't feel like doing that work. It's like, and trust me, the points which Oben made beforehand in the previous segment is correlated to this, because if you leave a lot of work for later, you won't feel like doing it. And it's a very cliched advice, I know. Like everyone tells you, guys, don't leave your work for later. Keep it, do it, start doing it early on. And it is one of the most integral advices you can get, and it is directly correlated to maintaining your physical and mental stability during these times. And I have first-hand experience in this, because last year one of my friends, it was our English exam, and he comes to the basketball. He's normally the guy that's nervous for the exams. He comes into the basketball court, he's like, guys, oh no, he just comes in, he's completely happy, and we ask him, we're all nervous, this is our first main exam. Then we ask him what's happening. He's like, man, I got Amazon Prime last week, dude, 3 shows back to back I finished. Full gang around him is stunned, like, how, why? And then he's like, no, not only that, I woke up early also. So he's like, to study, right? Like, no, I played gully cricket with fifth graders. Full, everyone's like, okay, this guy's this confident, he's going playing gully cricket, Amazon Prime, everything he's done in this time. But then he checks the list of chapters to do, and we've got 34 chapters. He finds out he's not done 8, he's not touched 8. And the reason is, beforehand when he did his chapters, he these 8 chapters were kind of long, so he's like, I leave it for later. But later he forgot the chapters, he didn't do it. And the scenes of anxiety, guys, you don't want to be in that situation. We had to teach him all those chapters in the bus. It was like a rap concert happening at the back. But yeah, he did have a happy ending, because he did manage to perform well. But no, this is not something I encourage, or this is not an example you should follow, because you don't want to be in that situation. And he survived mainly because those chapters didn't come as much as we thought it would. But that's a situation you don't want to be in, and this is a small anecdote to connect. So let's look at some points for do's and don'ts during this time for self-care. So first up, do not go long hours without breaks. And some students might find this a productive way to study. They can clock in long hours without getting distracted. But as our friend Owen has noted, that once you try to clock in like 1 hour, 50 minutes, 2 hours straight, or some long hours, you're towards the end of that, when you feel like your mind is going to other places, like if you feel like you're getting distracted, take short breaks. Take short breaks. Do anything that will relax you, like will calm you down. Listen to music, just stare out of the window, anything you guys want to do. But what I wouldn't advise is going through your socials or watching YouTube videos, because those things actually stretch your time. Once you start scrolling through your Instagram and like you go 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it stretches, it goes to 30, 40 minutes. And I'm telling you, it happens. But if you can get that time constraint, don't go more than 5 to 10 minutes, because that'll become counterproductive, and it starts killing your time, and you'll waste a lot of time. So don't do that. Limit yourself, get self-control. Then the next is cut yourself away. Do not cut yourself away from the people around you. This is an important point, because what students try to do is they go into recluse mode. They switch back. They just cut themselves away from their family members, friends. Just sit down, study 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours straight. Don't do that, because what happens when that you start feeling empty on the inside, like you have no one to talk to. There's no interaction happening between you and your family members, friends, whatever. So try to interact with people who are not directly connected to the exams, so that you won't, for those 5 to 10 minutes, you'll be carefree, and there won't be any pressure on you building upon you for those 5 to 10 minutes at least. So to talk to your family and talk to your friends, it's a good habit. The next up, yes, emotional eat or skip meals. Yes, emotional eat is actually a thing, guys. It is when you feel anxious or nervous, when you're restless in general, when you eat whatever is in front of you. Not everything, I mean edibles. Whatever is in front of you, you start like, eating it. And obviously, for obvious reasons, that's not something you don't want that. You don't want any unneeded additives in your body during these times. Or skip meals. So, some kids just, just to get those consecutive long hours of study, they just skip meals, and that's not right. So keep a balanced diet. Next up, you have do not follow an unhealthy sleeping schedule. So during board exams or prepping for any long exams, what students do is they tend to stay up late, and then again wake up early. So you'll get very low hours of sleep, like 3 to 4 hours or 4 to 5 hours. But try to get the required amount of sleep. So if you are planning on staying up late, then wake up late, get more sleep on the morning end. But if you're planning to wake up early, then sleep early, so you get more sleep on the night end. So try to find out a productive regime like that. And the last is do not stay physically inactive for long periods of time. This is important, guys, because so in this, you can try and implement in those 5 to 10 minutes of break, which I told you, you can try and implement at least some physical activity during these times, those 5 to 10 minutes. It can be anything. Just try and do jumping jacks, jogging on the spot, stretches, anything you find will be physically active, try to implement it. It is good, because once you start sitting down in one place and just your studying is or mainly going to involve just sitting down, so that will be having ill effects on you. So that's about it, guys. Good luck. But if whatever you take away from this, just don't write this exam like your life depends on it, guys, because it doesn't. Give it your 100%, give it your best, try your hardest, write it without any regrets. Just give it your 100%, but don't make it out to be a bigger deal than it already is. And that because that piles up anxiety, that piles up nervousness. And once you start doing that, your mental and physical state is not, it's going to go haywire. And end of the day, after you finish that last exam and walk out of the door for your from your last exam, you're going to think to yourself like, why was there so much hype? What was all the fuss about? It was not that different, because your pre-boards will give you a lot of experiences on how you attempt a board exam. And yeah, that's going to happen, guys. And as the years and months flow by, you're not going to recount all those answers and questions you missed. All that's going to stick with you are those small instances or memories that you and your friends created together. So good luck, guys. All the best. I'm handing it over to the next speaker.
Hi guys, I'm Gr10. So I'm going to talk on effective studying and tips on effective studying. So before we start on effective studying, we need to understand that while studying, we have to set a goal. What do we want to achieve? Why are we studying, first of all? If you don't have a goal in your mind, you're not going to be able to study. Think about this. Like, suppose I have to watch an IPL match in the evening. I will be doing my homework. I will be finishing my homework or other plans for the day. So in the night, my parents allow me to watch the match. So you have a goal in the mind, and I will work towards that. But if you don't have a goal in your mind, you're just saying, okay, I have to finish my homework. It'll probably take 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and it'll still not be done because you don't have a goal in your mind. So first of all, you have to create a goal. Like, why am I studying this for? So next is how it's a few tips on being organized. First of all is keep a study schedule. Make a timetable. Now, when I say timetable, you don't necessarily name each and everything. Okay, from 3:30 to 4:30, I'm gonna eat food. That's not how it works, right? Yeah. When I say about timetable, you need to set up goals or objectives you want to complete in the day. You might say, okay, I want to complete one chapter of science today, and I want, when you say I want to complete one chapter of science, you mean the questions, the extra questions, and everything related to that chapter. You need to be done with that chapter so that next time when it comes for your exam, you only need to revise it once. So you need to set up goals, and if you are unable to complete those goals, then you need to rework where you have lost time and how you have to incorporate those changes in your schedule. Now, there's one thing that there is no one trick pony when I talk about effective studying tips. Right? You'll say that, okay, my friend listens to music while studying, so even I'll do that. But frankly, that's not how it works, right? Your friend has different preferences, you have different preferences. If he listens to music, it's not necessary you will also be, more concentrated while listening to music. You might have something else. You might want a calm environment and not music. So you need to understand what works best for you, and that you have to incorporate in your schedule so that you're able to produce your maximum efficiency. Secondly is equipping your study area with all the materials. So while there's many things, there's many videos on YouTube which say how to study, in a day for exam, in 2 days for exam. If you keep watching those and you're not organized towards your goal, you're just wasting your time. You need to on your study table, if you study on a study table, if you study on your bed, you need to create an environment for your studies. You have to remove all the distractions away. You have to remove your mobile phone so that you're not going ahead and checking how to study fast, right? You need to avoid all of that. You need to just keep your syllabus, your books around you, and your reference books as well. Now, next is keeping a careful record of assignments. What happens is that many of times we feel that we are going to tuitions, we are doing a lot of schoolwork as well. So, why do assignments? There's the same thing. And there's a lag created at the backlog. Personally, I had a lot of backlog. But then I actually had, then my teachers actually made me realize why this is so bad to keep a backlog. In grade 10, because if you're keeping a backlog, what happens is that over time the backlog increases such an instant, such a big number that you start losing marks on your internals, and internal is 20 marks, which includes your assignments, your behavior, and even your classwork, notebook work, so homework work. So you never keep the backlog of assignments. And also, if you feel that, okay, why should I do the assignments? Actually, assignments make you practice a lot. For math, you need to do questions on questions on questions, and that's what helps in these assignments. Teachers create these assignments from previous year questions. They do it from different reference books, and that really helps you a lot. Third one is using use of trade secrets. Now, what does this mean? Basically you have to realize that what actually is a very good strategy that many students follow is called group studying. Now what I'm talking about group studying is not, the that group studying where you just go ahead and keep talking all day. Group studying as in the sense like revising your topic. So what happens if you have a friend who does not know a topic, and suppose he does not know sources of energy chapter, and you do not know the trigonometry chapter. So what happens, you study sources of energy, he studies trigonometry. Now you both explain each other the chapter. What happens is that other person understands it because you both are in the same age, right? You know how each other feel. And secondly, what will happen is that you yourself will revise that chapter while explaining it to him. So this is what's called trade secrets. Next is overlearning material. Now, what this means is that basically reference book. Never think that what you're studying it's out of context and it won't come, right? It will always help you in the future as well. So you have to study like everything related to the chapter and not basically seclude. Okay, this is it's a bit off topic, yeah, but you have to study that actually helps to enhance your memory and understanding of the chapter as well. Lastly would be taking the lecture notes by hand. Now I've seen many people, they start typing out the notes and like, okay, we'll do it. But a very effective method of studying is, actually writing them down while memorizing them. What happens, you're reinforcing the concept you have just learned and you're actually writing it down. Like think about it. You read a chapter, history chapter. Now in history, you can't really, you have to make points while studying history. So what you do, you start writing after reading the chapter, whatever you remember, you start writing them down, and then you check it out again, and it actually helps recall the lesson better. Next will be being mentally strong. Now, of course, this was already discussed, but how now there's a brain hack to learn and memorize a lot of things, right? Now, you might be saying that, oh, I'm not really able to study science, the formulas and physics, the formulas and maths, and some history content. So it might be that you are not exercising regularly, because exercising is proven to have a effect on your memorizing capability. It actually helps to increase your memorizing capability as well. And as I previously stated as well, taking lecture notes by hand. You can do yoga, you can do any other exercise as well, just to build up your memorizing capabilities. You need to take a break from your social media while studying, and you need to surround yourself with study material so that you're not distracted. Next would be the feeling of fulfillment. So what you have to do, as I've already discussed about the study schedule, is make a weekly plan. Organize your goals. Think about it. You say in a week I will complete 2 chapters of science. You have to do it. If you're not able to do it, you're falling back on your schedule. Others have already done those 2 chapters, and you're falling back on your schedule. Create a daily checklist as well. Now, along with a weekly planner, you have to make a daily, and even sometimes people make an hourly planner as well. It really depends on how you think about it, right? So go about that, right? Okay, I will do at least 15 pages up till 3 hours, right? I will do at least 50 questions in these 3 hours. Like, or you create a sample paper and say I will finish the sample paper in 3 hours, and make the daily checklist. And yeah, create a calendar. Basically, it's the same thing as creating a study planner. You may have noticed I'm talking a lot about study schedule, timetable, and everything, because that's the most effective tip for studying. You go anywhere on YouTube, you will find the same thing, is to create a study schedule. Access to write down the sequence tasks, focus on one task at a time. That's also very important. I've seen many of my friends, they were like, okay, I'll do 5 pages of science, then switch to SST, then switch to science. No, it does not work. Yes, you have to switch between subjects when you're getting bored, but that's not like after 5 pages, if you're getting bored, you're not really studying that effectively. You need to study religiously, and if you really are getting bored, then finish at least 10, 15, even 20 pages at times, and then switch on to the next subject. And yes, log out from all of your social networks, just to eliminate your distractions. You can, yeah, drinking coffee. Now this is a very important thing which I want to discuss, is your sleep wake cycle, which is a very important tip in effective studying. Decide your cycle. Now there are 2 cycles basically which are very important. Either it is if you're a morning person, it will be the morning cycle, which you wake up 4 or 5 o'clock and then study up till 8, probably even 9. If you're at school, you have to reduce it till 7. And then there's a night cycle which all the night people follow, night walkers. They follow up till 2 or even 1. but you have to complete those 7-8 hours of sleep. You have to incorporate it. But if you're doing it the other way, if you're doing it, so say you sleep at 2 and then you wake up at 4, that no, you're not, that's bad for your body as well, and you're not going to remember anything you did. And the other thing is you sleep at 10 and you wake up at 8. That's also not, it works. You're oversleeping, and that's also not providing efficiency in your studies. Clean your table and room, and it helps to create a learning environment, and achieve the flow. Like when you're studying physics, just achieve it, like go through it, and don't switch in between. Now, some tips during exams would be like good notes, as I've already touched upon. Notes are one of the best ways to revise concepts. Notes in school, notes in class. Just revise those concepts again and again. And often students feel stressed during exams because of pressure from their peers or the family. But you have to apply the constant competition behind yourself, and review yourself every day and your notes. Also, some people might feel that if I'm studying at one place again and again, I'm getting a bit bored. So change your location. Sometimes study on your study table, sometimes study in your drawing room, living room, sometimes study in your bedroom, and get enough sleep. So if you don't get enough sleep, the next day when you wake up, you're gonna be like half sleeping, and you're not going to remember what you just studied, right? Join a study group. Now, this is one thing, as I already mentioned, that there's no one trick pony for studying. So if many people enjoy group studies, some enjoy individual studies. So you find your fit. Like, do you like group studies? Do you like interacting with others and done studying, or do you want an isolated environment? You just by yourself. And if you like group studies, that's actually a good way to study. If you can actually end those. So yeah, join a study group. Create a group where peers other than you have the same goals, and they are also bent of mind towards studying, and that you won't be distracted that frequently. Use flashcards. Now, instead of flashcards, you can create mind maps while studying. Especially this is effective in science, sometimes SST as well. But in science, what I used to do personally was to create mind maps. You create, suppose it was topic, let's say conduction. You create mind maps, a candle example which you have in your textbook, which you will have in your textbook. So you create the mind map from there. Okay, so one candle falls, so the heat is radiating to the rod, and then you create those mind maps from there, and you study the whole chapter. What it also does, when you're like at the last 1 hour before you're going to your board exam schedule, what will do, you have to revise. So you'll see, I actually saw many of my friends, they were panicking, and they were opening whole textbooks, searching through pages. But what me and my group did was just open our mind maps, just scroll through them, because the whole chapter is created very easily over there. So that's a pretty good tip for studying. And this is again power breaks. Yes. So coming to the topic of power breaks, taking breaks while studying is very important, right? Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes. And actually, it's so important that many companies have actually invested thousands of dollars into this mechanic. I have recently read that TCS has actually invested so much money in their laptop in software, so that employees know, like after 20 minutes of working, they have to take a 5-minute break, because it's actually proven to increase your efficiency. You can just stretch up, you can just do some yoga poses as mentioned, or you can just take breath, or you just take rest. And when I say rest, what many people do is, they think rest, okay, I'll take my phone, I'll start playing a game, or I'll scroll to WhatsApp and anything. But that's not rest. Rest is basically lying down on your bed, or just like breathing deeply for a few minutes. And sometimes, while I was used to do my maths problems and I would not get few, I would be really frustrated. I will write the question for half an hour and I'm not still able to get how to solve it. So what I would do, go for a brisk 10-minute walk down. You can go 10-minute walk the building. It's not that harmful, right? So you can go exercises, jumping jacks, or you just increase your blood circulation to your body, and it really helps a lot. Next will be make every minute count. So when you're in 10th grade, it might seem at first, we'll skip this, we'll study at the end, and that all. But you have to understand that at the end, many things are not possible. We don't know what the future is, right? Who thought that COVID-19 would be coming up? So you might think, okay, so I'll do it at the end. And at the end, if you fall sick, what about that? So you have to make every minute count. You have to utilize each and every minute. manage your mindset. It is very natural to feel anxious and nervous during exams, but you utilize tips and enjoy the exam basically. Personally, while giving board exams, we were actually being thrilled. After the first exam, we were very nervous, but after giving the first exam, we actually had positive thoughts and we understood how to go about it. Lastly is the goal setting. So identify your priorities and make your career choices, assess yourself and make a list of your occupations to explore so that you're not panicking at the last moment. And this is a picture I brought from you. I think many of you might know the Pebbles, Sands, and Rock story. So just reorganize your day according to these tasks. Pebbles for the average importance, Sands for less important, and Rocks for the most important tasks. So yeah, thank you. So next, please go ahead with Shobit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Aditya. That was indeed insightful. You have heard Oben talk about time management, Emin talk about physical and mental well-being, and him talk about effective studying. I am Shobit Sinha, and in the next 7 to 8 minutes, I will be covering the topic of test anxiety. So, what is test anxiety? When you think about a test, what usually comes to your mind? Question and answers, syllabus, marks, MCQs, and so on. Now, what do these lead to? It leads to anxiety, nausea, headache, anger, distress, fear, and whatnot. Everyone goes through this. In fact, a little nervousness can actually help you perform your best. However, when this distress becomes so excessive that it interferes with performance on an exam, it is known as test anxiety. Therefore, we can define test anxiety as a psychological condition in which people experience extreme distress and anxiety in testing situations. While many people experience some degree of stress and anxiety before and during exams, test anxiety can ruin learning and impact the test performance. Even the best students can struggle with test anxiety. This year, COVID-19 added unprecedented stress as we worry about ourselves and our loved ones falling ill. In addition to that, many normal routines have changed as schools take precaution to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The uncertainty of the situation and changes in routine can cause many students to feel stressed and anxious. With the current pandemic, there's a lot we don't know, and this can be anxiety provoking for all of us, especially for students who thrive on structure and routine. Being able to cope with that uncertainty and recognize that it's okay to feel that way is an important part. Now, let us see what causes test anxiety. I have tried to categorize them into three buckets. First, pressure. The second is past experiences. And third, the fear of failure. Whenever there is a test, we end up thinking that I've invested a lot of time in studying and I don't want to let it go to waste or take a retest, so we start taking pressure. Similarly, we may relate to some past experiences where we did not do well, so we end up questioning ourselves as to why should we study at all. The fear of failure is again a very important aspect which causes test anxiety. We end up fearing for our results. If we don't get good marks, we may not get our desired stream, or we may feel that we have disappointed our parents and teachers, and we can feel the peer pressure. Now, let us talk about the most important aspect, which is how to manage test anxiety. I've tried to capture some of the key elements. Firstly, you'll feel more relaxed if you systematically study and practice the material that is available, so prepare well. The next one is to take mini breaks to drink water and get some fresh air. It is important to do this periodically. And third, deep breathing can slow down a beating heart or a racing mind. So practice these techniques, maybe do some yoga and relax. The next one is bring a picture of your happy place or come up with a morale boosting mantra like I can do this or I worked hard and I deserve this and I'm doing the best I can. Therefore, it is recommended to engage in positive self-talk. Always remember to remain calm and stay focused of your task. The next one, and like a personal favorite of mine, is self-discipline. This is something which I try to adhere to. I create a comprehensive timetable and ensure the syllabus is evenly spread to cover the subject. I often take help of teachers, parents, or even reach out to my seniors to ask for their inputs. Food habits during this time is also very important. Eat nutritious meals during exam time. Look for foods that offer a steady stream of nutrients rather than a high sugar intake. High caffeine food and drinks like energy drinks, sweets, chocolates, burgers, and chips make us hyperactive, irritable, and moody. It is important to keep the energy up during this time. Like Emin said, it is important to exercise regularly. Exercise can help boost energy levels, clear the mind, and relieve stress. It does not matter what it is. Walking, cycling, swimming, football, and even dancing is effective. And finally, good sleep. Good sleep is improves thinking and concentration. Cramming is never the answer, and pulling an all-nighter just worsens your nerves. Having adequate rest, about 7 to 8 hours, is likely to be more beneficial than reading until dawn. Now, let us talk about how to reduce this test anxiety during an exam. I have collated some of the tips that I believe will reduce test anxiety. First and foremost, always keep track of time and pace your answers accordingly. Best is to time yourself during exam preparation while practicing sample test papers. Therefore, budget your time during the test. It is important to take mini breaks during exam and drink water to avoid dehydration. Third, don't change your answer unless you know the second one is correct. The fourth point is don't panic when you see a question you don't know an answer of. It is best to leave that question for now and attempt it at the end of the paper. The fifth one is to eliminate options that are incorrect and make an educated guess. This comes very handy, especially during MCQ tests. And last but not the least, do not try to compete with others. This is something very common when you see your friends asking for extra sheets or while you still have pages left in your booklet. Do not compete to fill those pages. And that brings us to the end. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention today. I hope this was useful, and remember to believe in yourself and be confident. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to address them.
Students, if you have any questions, you can address them right now.
Can I answer this because it's related to my part?
Yes, please go ahead.
So basically, when you talk about mind maps, they offer a last revision solution. When you're in textbook, right? At last minute, when we were giving our board exams at the end, 1 hour, when we had those textbooks in our hand, it was really getting stressful because textbook is like a 200-page textbook. You can't scroll through everything that fast in like 1 hour, right? And it really gets on your nerves because then everyone is around you, they're also studying, and you start getting that pressure around you. That's why creating mind maps, it simplifies the chapter because much of the chapter is only the text and vocabulary. You only need the main points of the chapter at the end time of the revision. And if you say we can miss out 1 or 2 points, so that's when you create the mind maps, you need to inculcate all the important points in there so that when you're revising, you're not missing out on them.
Participants, if you have any questions related to studying, time management, exam anxiety, you can address them here personally with the panelist. You can use the Q&A option to address your questions.
Ma'am, no one is raising their hand right now. So
So Jacob sir, can we close the session now? We don't think there are any more.
There is no question from the student side, so then we can close the session if your part is done.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, we
Thank you
just received
all.
a question, ma'am.
no,
Okay.
there's. I think that's not.
No, Nakshya
that was-
Nahoti says how to convince your parents that you worked hard for this exam but still didn't get convincing marks.
Like how to I think if your parents just see you working hard and studying for the test, it shouldn't really matter on how much marks you get, because at the end you're giving your best and you're doing the best you can. So like you wouldn't need to convince your parents as such that you've worked hard for this, because when they see you preparing for it and doing the best you can, I think that's good enough.
Thank you, boys of grade 11. I mean, Aditya, Oban, and Shobit, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you to all the participants and the panelists.